Greetings, this is Mr. Curious. I'm here to present a video tutorial on how to use the Resident Evil 4 UHD ETM tool by Son of Persia. I'd like to thank him for taking the time to allow me to test these tools. ETM files contain bin and TPL models as well as animations and effects that are related to the objects that we can break in the game, like boxes and barrels and vases, or items that we can move, like ladders and doors and chests. It also handles other objects like torches, essentially anything that we can move or break. And so we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to tell you that we also need the following tools. We are going to need the YZ2 tool for extracting our textures. We're going to need the UDAS tool as it contains the ETM file itself. The bin tools to open up the bin and TPL files that are inside the ETM. We're going to need the LFS tool, which essentially removes the LFS extension from any of the files that we'll be dealing with. And the effect tool, which allows us to edit the models that are inside the ETM EFF tools. I'm going to jump right into it and show you that I've extracted a box. Basically what you've got to do is go to a room, and I've got 108 UDAS here. I'm just going to delete this and start from the beginning. So I'm basically going to go to my Resident Evil directory, file 4, stage 1, and look up the room 108. I'm going to copy this file and bring it into the LFS extractor. Now this is because most Resident Evil files have by default the LFS extension. This is used for compression, but we need to remove it before we edit the files. So I'm just going to paste that into a working directory with the Quick BMS tool, which is the LFS tool, and just run the script. You can see now that the extension has been removed, and now we're ready to edit that. So I'm just going to paste the UDAS file now into this working directory with the UDAS tool. I'm going to extract it, and we look at the index file quickly, and we see that the UDAS file contains a whole bunch of files: the AEV, the lit file, the CAM file, and today we're going to be looking at the ETM file. So we're going to go ahead and open up the ETM. So first we're going to copy this and put it in a working directory with our ETM file. Oops, what have I got going on here? Okay, so I'm going to paste this ETM file and simply hit extract. A folder is created. What's inside there? We look at the index file, some bin, effect, and TPL files. This is a list of all the files that are in this folder. So now we open that, and we've got all these files. We're going to need to use now the bin tools that are provided with the download, and we're going to copy those and put them in our working directory with all these bin and TPL files, and hit extract. Now you can see that some object files and material files have been generated. We can now have a sneak peek at these. You can see that, oh, this is the bird's nest. And what else do we have? Oh, an interesting staff of some kind. And lastly, oh, it's a breakable box. So we're going to edit that breakable box today. So what we need to do at that point is import this model into our 3D software. So I'm going to copy this directory, and I'm going to open up Milkshape 3D. I usually use 3ds Max, but I've had some issues with bones in there recently, so I'm going to stick with something that works. I'm going to import an SMD file. I have a quick way to do that, but otherwise you would do file import SMD, and now I'm pasting the where we were there. Now we're using the SMD and not the object file because bones are important, as these files, like the doors, use several bones when they swing open, so it's important that when we're importing that we keep the skeleton. And now we have a box, but no textures. Normally textures are kept in the room pack file, and I've just added this texture here. It wasn't here when I opened this up. Many of you are going to open up, I'm just going to actually show you what happened very quickly. Actually, before I do that, I need to show you how I got here. So how do we get the textures for this model for 108? Well, essentially we have to go to our Bio4 folder again, go into Image Pack HD and search for the room pack file. All pack files start with 44, 1, 2, 3 zeros, and then the name of the room, which is 108. So I'm going to take this pack file here that Albert gave us and copy it and then stick it here. And for the video ETM tutorial, I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to unpack it. Now, ETM textures are always located at the end of the file after all the effect textures. You can see here's the candle effect textures and the puzzle effect textures, some trees, and then this is probably rain or water. And then usually they are located right here. But and you can see that the bird's nest is still located here. But these have all been dummied out by Albert. So if you're using his HD release, you'll notice that these textures are missing. And so why is that? Well, basically what he did was to put some of the textures that were repeating over and over in all the room files into what is called the 070000 pack file. This pack file is the pack file for the core UDAS, and what that contains is a lot of the bloom effect textures, the film grain, the blood from certain things, and fire. It also contains all the numbers and stuff that you see in the HUD. This is probably the most important pack file there is. So Albert had the idea to go and add these repeating textures into this file so that they're only loaded once, and that was to reduce file size. And so you can see there's a bunch of textures for Leon and Ada and some of the village Ganados and Ashley. But he has also included in this distribution some of the very popular ETM textures. So we have a choice right now whether we want to have our new model point to this texture file that Albert has created, or whether we want to have it to our room file. Now I'm going to suggest that we do it to the room for several reasons. If we start creating mods and we're putting new textures in Albert's core UDAS pack file, and everybody starts doing that, it's not going to work because none of the mods are going to be compatible and people are going to have different textures. Whereas if you keep it in a room, you're not messing with something that's used by the game engine when it's loading, and it's just probably a little safer to keep it in here. So normally it would be here anyway. So for example, you can stick it wherever you like, but for today we're going to stick it in here. So I'm going to use one of these dummy slots that Albert didn't use. I'm going to use 182. I'm going to delete this and then go up a level, and I've already had this conveniently named. I've taken the texture from this and named it 182. So that's going to go back in the room file. Okay, so now we have a directory. Now normally I could just copy this directory and go here, and then I go to materials and then click here and then paste this directory. Now what happens with these very long directories that I have is that Milkshape runs out of memory. I think there's only 128 kilobytes allocated to the memory for these directories, so it might not allow me to do that. So in which case I'll have to move it. But I might get lucky today. Now what did I say? A 182. All right, so we're going to choose 182 and then go to textured. There it is. So that's our box. So what are we going to do today? Let's look at the wireframe and then let's look at the skeleton. All it is one bone, bone 0. So what do we want to replace this box with? Let's open up a different file and see what we can come up with. Now I'm just going to open up a model that I already have. Let's go ETM models. I've got plants, boxes, a vase. Oh, horse head. I remember this one. There we go. So we're going to use this horse head instead. Now, what we need to do first is assign the bones. So you can see that this whole thing is selected, but otherwise you would just select the whole thing and make sure you're in the joint section, click on bone 0 and then go assign. Now if I show this draw vertices with bone color, it should all be yellow. So now the whole thing is assigned bone 0. So our next task is to get some materials for this guy. Now it was 268, but for which room? Who knows? I'm going to have to dig here, and I think I used it in R22C. What did it say in Milkshape? It was 2 something. It'll be near the end. Oh, this is for my teleport room. No, I used it in my... Oh no, this is his. Sorry, I should have had this ready. Ah yes, here it is, 268. And there's also a bumped file. So I'm going to copy these two textures here, and I'm going to put them in... Where were we now? Oh, here. we're going to use 182 and 183. So we're going to get rid of those. We're going to paste these two files and rename them 0182, rename 0183. I'm going to take those and put them in here. Okay, so now our textures are ready in this packed file. Again, I'm going to copy this destination here, copy here, and then go here. It should actually still be there, yes. So what was it, 182, 183? See, now this is the error you get when the memory is not enough. So you can basically take these two things and stick them on the desktop. This is just a temporary directory that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste them in here because it has a shorter directory length. And we're going to go back to Milkshape and do this again. We're going to paste this. Here we go, 182. Beautiful. And that's it right now. This thing is scaled already. You may have to take whatever object you're bringing in and scale it, and that's why I would suggest keeping the original model in the scene here while you scale it. But this is already scaled. So this thing is ready to be exported. Now we're going to go back to the ETM room here, or sorry, directory. And remember, it's ET01 that we're replacing, this box. So we're going to copy the directory here, go back to Milkshape, and go File, Export, SMD. I'm going to paste that directory, and we're going to go to over top and overwrite that file. This is very important. Vertex weights. Essentially what that does is make sure that all the bones are assigned. Okay, next. Just hit OK there. Now we need to generate a material file. We do this by exporting the object file. So we go export, and then you got to find the object file here. And it'll bring you to the same directory, and you just overwrite the same object file and hit yes. So now you'll see that this has been created, and these three files were just created, these three. So we need to look at the material file. We can get rid of that, and we remember that we're also dealing with a bump file, 183. So we're going to go map bump 0183.tds, and then go save. Now we need to use the bin tools. This is going to repack using this tool. And I'm just going to show you what it reads. Bin tool 2018. Now we need to change this so that it has this name. Copy. Paste. And paste. Now this is important. We need to tell it which room to use, since we're using this is the pack file. Now in Albert's case, it would have been 07000 here. He would have had this, and that would have told it to go to that room, but we're going to keep it here. And then just hit File, Save, and then hit Repack ETM. Done. So what's created is a TPL and a bin file, and a TCS, which tells us that all our textures are in order. Now I want to go back up and look at the IDX. ET100 bin, that's the bin. And look at that. There's no ET100 TPL. So we have a little bit more work to do. What we're going to need to do is open up the effect tool. Sorry, I failed to mention this in the beginning. I'll explain what's going on here. Some of these files use, like for example, this 1A has its own bin and its own TPL. In that case, we could simply repack it and we're good to go. This one also uses a bin and a TPL, ET1F. But for some reason, ET100 doesn't. All it has is an effect file. What happens essentially is that the textures are inside the TPL that is inside the effect file. So what we have to do at this point is take the ET01 effect. That's the one that relates to ET01 here. We're going to copy that and put it in with the effect tools. Now, my effect tools might be renamed something differently, but just use the one that's included in your distribution. So we're going to extract that, and then we're going to look at effect model. We have a bin and a TPL. So what is this model? Well, when you break that box, there are various stages of decomposition, and I assume that this model that we're going to look at here is going to be that. So we need the bin tools again. We're going to copy those and put them in the effect model folder and paste this. We're going to extract it and have a look. Yes, so here's here's the box after you break it. So the effect will have some boards flying off, and then the game will draw this model for a few short seconds before it disappears. And the TPL here, if we look at it, is for the room folder. So we need to essentially edit this model, or because what's going to happen is, like, this thing's going to break, and then it's going to show this model when we're done. So we can edit this model now if we want to, like, have missing pieces. And basically I'll just do a rugged version like this, but I mean eventually you'd want to, like, put a top in on there or put a bottom in. But let's just use this broken version like this. So I'm going to export this model, and I'm going to overwrite this model here. So I'm going to copy that, and let's export it. I'm going to use shortcuts this time, as in it. Well, no, I should do it. Export. Half-Life. I'm going to paste the directory here, 0. We're overwriting that. Now we have to do the object file too. Export object to create our material file. And now you'll see that this has been created, and we can simply do the same thing we did last time, putting the bump texture in as well. And hit save on that. So when we repack this, we're not going to use the the ETM repack. Remember, we're using the, oh shit, I did that on the last one. Anyway, actually, I'm not sure if we use the bin repack on this. There's a difference between this one and this one. I'm just going to use this one in case. So this is 0, 0, and again 108. And what that does is it's going to create this new 0 TPL, and that's what the other main model will point to. So I'm just going to hit File, Save, and then I'm going to repack, and this should tell us yes. So now we can delete these or we can leave them there, it doesn't matter, but the game is going to read these two files. So now we have to repack this EFF. That is done. Now we take this and we copy it and we put it back in the folder for our with all our ETM files. It's gonna rewrite this file. Overwrite. So now we have the proper EFF file, and we have the new bin and TPL here that were created earlier. And the IDX file, we're not adding anything. We could if we wanted to, and I'll show you that next, but for this part we don't need to edit that. So now we just basically repack the ETM. Simple as that. This is ready to go. We copy that and put it in our UDAS directory. So we're going to paste, overwrite. We're going to repack this, and this UDAS file goes in our Resident Evil 4 ST1 directory. Now, a note, if you're not using Razor's companion DLL, you'll need to rename the LFS version of that to this, so this file doesn't load. So now 108 is going to load. Now there's one thing that we didn't finish doing, was to repack this file. So we need to repack this and copy this, and that needs to go in our Resident Evil image pack folder. So paste there, and see this, do the same thing here. So now this is going to load. So our textures are in place, our models are repacked. Let's have a look at what this does in the game. Now I'm using Razor's trainer, so I'm just going to put right in the stage swap here and then click 108, Village Graveyard. And my game is here. Now wherever that box is located, we should find our new. See, I've got Chris Hadfield here and a bunch of my own modded weapons. Okay, there should be a box in here. There we go. Alright, so here is our new model. Looks great, doesn't it? You can see, oh, this model actually stays. So you'd want to edit that model. And you can actually rotate this, and you can move them around. You can place them in different places. I could put one right there if I want. I can do that, but with that, in order to do that, we use another file called the ETS. and I will show you that in a second tutorial. So now let's add a whole new model to this room. In order to do that, I'm getting a lot of noise from this game. Maybe I need to. Okay, in any case, we are going to add a whole new model in here. But to do so, we need to understand that each model in the ETM uses a unique identifier. So those small boxes that we saw there are 0, 1, 0, 0. Another one, the big boxes are 1100. Torches are 1400. So you can look at a whole bunch of different ones. 1400 is a torch, and there's doors and whatnot. So let's go ahead and put one in that isn't there. Let's look at a room 101. This 101 has a bunch of doors. No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put in something that you might see in one of my mods. ATM mod. Let's look at these. All right, let's go and put a ladder in. Or no, I don't want to. You might need more than 11. Okay, so here's. Actually, no, I'm going to show you guys how to use a ladder. There. ET600. So if you open up enough of these files, you'll find out what they all are. For the time being, I'm just going to copy all these 600 files. Now let's have a look at, okay, this is R11D original. Okay, so you just open another directory, open R11D, and you see you've got all these files. Again, what do? We take our bin files, we copy these, and we paste them in here. Now we extract this, and we've got a whole list of stuff. We also see that there's FCV files. Now what are those? Those are used for animations. And that may be required for Leon kicking a ladder down. It might be required for pushing the ladder up. I'm not sure. So I usually just, if I'm porting one thing over from another room that I think is going to need these files, I actually bring them with me. But today we'll try it without and see what happens. Okay, so that's a big box. We determined that 600 was a ladder. Now see that what that tool does, the bin tool, it automatically generates a TPL, but we don't know if our file uses a TPL. So that's why it's handy to look at this IDX and see what is under the hood. We're looking for 600 here. There we go. It's got its own TPL, so we won't need to use the effect file. So, but we should try and keep our eyes open for anything that says ET06. For example, this could be related to the ladder. And this stuff I'm not sure. We'll try it without it. So today we're going to take this ladder, anything that's 6 here, we're going to copy, and we're going to stick it in. Oh, we can close that. We can close this. And go, okay, sorry, we're up a level here. Tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to paste this in here. Now I want to use that as it is. I don't want to modify it. It's just a ladder. So we still need to import this into 3ds Max though, because it has a texture that we're going to need. So if we look at the texture for that, we're going to need to go to R11D image pack folder. So again, we're going 44123111D. There it is again. Copy that. Actually, it might be missing because it's Albert's, but we'll have a look anyway. Copy. God, I have so many folders open. Here we are again. So I'm going to paste that here and unpack it. Oh shoot, this is my R11D from a mod that I had made. So we're just going to delete that and go back here and take the original version. I'll need to take off the LFS extension. Okay, so this is the original. It's going to look crappy. It's not going to look as good as Albert's. But where were we here? Okay, so I'm pasting that here. Now again, these files are usually at the end. Here you go, usually boxes, barrels. So if you're not sure which one it is, you can look at the material file. Sorry, I'm going to close those now. We extracted those here. You can look at the material file. It says 111. But I'm not sure. Oh, there it is, 111. So we're going to copy this. Remember, we're putting this in 108. So we're going to go back down and we'll place it right after our last model. So 184, we're getting rid of that. We're going to rename this 0184. I'm going to drag and drop that in there. Now we're going to go back to here, and we're going to copy this directory. This is the directory for the ETM models that are all extracted. And remember, we put in 600 in here. So now we're just going to go new here and import the SMD 600. There's your ladder. And we want textures. So we need to, again, go to, God, so many fold, yeah, here. Again, this might not load because of the limitation, but it might work. What do we have? What was it? 184? I can always look at it. Yes, 184. Okay, I got lucky. And there you have it. And so now we're going to export it as 600. So remember, copy that, paste it here, 600 SMD. Yes. Okay. We're going to export the object as well. And just to make sure the SMD. Oh, before I did that, I didn't put the bones on there. Let's look at the bones. Let's see what it has. 0. Oh, it's going to crash. No, the bones are here. The bones got imported, and so they will be exported. Alright, so that's ready to go. So now we have the material file, which is 184. There's no bump file. So all we have to do now is edit this bat file to say ET600, ET600, and save. Repack. Okay, so essentially we've added 2 files, this and this, bin and TPL. Now the important thing is to edit the IDX because we've added extra items. So we need a bin, I'm going to copy that, and we need a TPL. Actually, I'll just copy these 2. Now, these numbers, this first row of numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is just the index, so we'll change that to 8 and 9. The next number is the type. Effects use 9, bin and TPL use 11. And you'll see that other IDX components like FCV and sequence also have a different number here. So it's important that we use the type here, 11, and that's why I copied them. And so this stays the same. That's just the folder structure, and now we have to change this to be 6 and 6. We can just bring that back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now we've added 2 textures, and the file count needs to be updated to 10. File, save. Now, we're going to repack this. Oh, what did it say? Couldn't open 1600 bin. Oh, I must have typed that wrong here. Oh, yeah, see, this should be 0 and 0. Now it'll repack. So that's ready to be put in our UDAS folder. Move and replace, repack. Now, you're not going to see this in the game unless you edit another file called the ETS file. And I guess I can speak about that relationship briefly. Essentially what the essentially what the ETS file does is responsible for the coordinates and the placement of our ETM models. So if we want to put that ladder somewhere, we don't use the ETM, we use the ETS file. Governs where the ETM items are placed in the game. So I guess this would be a good segue to stop here, and the next tutorial I'm going to do is going to be on the ETS file. But just as a recap, these models, we can add plenty of them if we want into our ETM, but we have to remember that their textures need to point to a pack file that is loaded when the room file loads. If you are using Razor's companion DLL, you can sideload textures and create custom ETM texture packs there that will load with your room. Or you can do the traditional method as I have done and keep the pack files in the room files. You may also place objects in some of these breakables, and that will be done with the ITA file. So that concludes our tutorial on the ETM modding, and more information is included in this file, ETM ETS ITM ITA modding. And this is a tutorial that I've created that goes through our entire process that we did in the video, but it goes into great detail about editing the TPLs manually. It talks about the file count, repacking. Yes, and then it goes into the ETS file. So this document tells you how to do it all in one. Thanks for listening. I'm Mr. Curious. 2018. Happy modding!